the concerted push that one is seeing around countries when it comes to immigration. And who gets impacted the most? Well, it's the foreign students. That's a political hot potato and in fact is the most convenient aspect whenever politicians raise the issue of immigration. And it's happening in Canada, it's happening in Australia, apart from several others as well. Incidentally, both Canada and Australia are set to see elections in about 12 to 14 months. So this is a domestic issue which is very important also because of rising unemployment, rising cost of living expenses. So what's happened? Australia has capped the foreign students intake because of high immigration levels that one saw in 2022 right after COVID, and that's a trend that's not unique to Australia but also to several other countries including UK. Now Australia's crackdown is primarily to ensure that domestic students and domestic opportunities are given primarily to Australian citizens first. But here's the fact. Foreign students contribute about 48 billion Australian dollars to the economy in 2023, and in the midst of this, Indian students have also been caught in the middle of this political slugfest. Likewise, Canada has also capped temporary foreign workers amidst growing unemployment, and Justin Trudeau's government, which is extremely unpopular and facing backlash because of this issue, has resorted to just that, which is to find that political balance by trying to ease strained housing healthcare sectors, and for that it has said that it will reduce the intake of foreign permanent residents. So how does this impact Indian students? How does this impact those students who are already there and are on that path to get PR? And most importantly, what is the messaging like now going forward for students who wish to go and study in these universities, whether it's in Canada or in Australia? I'm going to come to the bit about the economic aspects of this and how it impacts the universities of Canada and Australia, but frankly that's not my concern at India Global. My concern here is to tell the viewers watching this that what happens to your kids who either aspire to go to these universities or are already there and are on that path of PR, and what happens to that? Does it get impacted or are there possible ways out? That's the big focus today on India Global. And let me get in my two experts, Jitin Chawla and Ajay Sharma, to talk more about it. And the big questions on your screens are there as far as this debate is concerned. Ajay Sharma, let me start with you, which is that one sees the kind of impact that is there. It's a trend now, whether it is in Australia or Canada or several others. New Zealand also came out with its own version. The question is how big an impact this is for Indian students who are there right now, because this is set to kick in by end of this year. Ajay Sharma.
So first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And not really a major impact because there's a whole world outside of Canada and Australia and UK. So let's first divide the debate in two parts. Number one, students who are already there, how this change is going to impact them. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's divide the debate in two parts. One is where the students who are already in these countries, and the other is students who are planning to go to these countries. So
but what happens to students who are there? That's my question, sir.
So primarily, if they are in the right courses, they have nothing to worry about. They will get the post-study work permit also, and they will also be on the way to PR pathway, especially if they are in healthcare courses or they are in STEM courses. But if they are not in one of the preferred occupations clearly, and that is why this cap on this temporary foreign workers is going to really harm the Indian students who are already there, because majority of them are working on low wages. So majority of low wages occupations are not in the preferred list, as a result of which this will directly impact them, and their work permit after it gets over for the current tenure is not likely to be extended, and they are likely to have come back. There may not be any option.
Right. So, and that's my question. On your screens are those big questions. Let's take those full frame before I come back to Ajay Sharma and Jitin Chawla, which is that There are now 70,000 students who are there who may be facing possible deportation, and that also includes Indians because Indian students do form a very large chunk of international students. What is the recourse for these students who are there right now, Ajay Sharma? Because that is priority number one. Kids and students who are already there, how can we protect their interests, or what's the best possible solution for them?
So the ideal solution, and it may not be the best fit for everybody. The ideal solution for them is because there are courses which are available and which can be done, which are of 6 months tenure. They could be in early childhood teaching, they could be in healthcare. So these are the preferred occupations. If they manage within the work permit tenure they have, they can undergo those 6 months courses. They will be able to get a job in one of these preferred occupation, which indeed will permit them to apply for provincial nomination and afterwards a PR visa.
Okay, Jitin Chawla, as a career counselor, how are you counseling students now who want to go to these universities, who've set that path for themselves in terms of whether it's Canada or Australia? And then I'm going to come out with some figures to tell just how significant Indian students are as a proportion there. But I want to first understand from you, how are you counseling parents and students who've identified this as a career path?
In our day-to-day interactions, if I look at 3 years back, so Canada occupied a very large chunk. I would say if somebody's like me is sending 100 students, then maybe 35, 40 would be going to Canada. Today, that number has come down to maybe 6, 7. Though the students who are going to topmost universities like University of Toronto, UBC Vancouver, McGill, still they are going for various reasons, that family is there, so on and so forth. But in terms of political uncertainty, in terms of what is happening with the visa, also from 2016, simplified student visa framework was launched. So that was for Australia. Here it was 2023, international student immigration strategy was launched, and the impact was felt immediately. Postgraduate work permit is there, but then again it is difficult for a lot of students to get the right kind of work. I have students who are toppers who go to the topmost universities, but for them to get a job in consulting and all is increasingly becoming difficult. Internships also for some students have been difficult. So given all of that, the number of people going to Canada has declined. Coming to Australia in 2016, they had launched a simplified student visa framework, which continues to evolve. Like this year, 2024, they changed the English language requirements. So for student visa, 500, 5.5 to 6. For temporary grad visa, 6 to 6.5. Financial proof was also increased by 21%.
Right.
Which for an audience which is a wealthy audience, it's absolutely fine. I mean, it doesn't matter to them. But for a lot of middle class or even lower middle class people who take loans and all, it's a significant amount.
Yes.
So here still people are kind of able to stay back, get a PR and all, but Canada seems to be quite down.
Yes. Okay. So, viewers, quickly I want to tell the significance of this. One is that data suggests that 1 in 40 Canadian is actually now an international student. In Australia, 1 in 33 Australians is now an international student. So that is the number of international students who are there in Canada and Australia, and you put that internal political dynamics there and you get the results that you do. In terms of specifically the numbers that have increased, why the Canadian government is under pressure. In 2014, the foreign student permit holders were about 330,000. In 10 years, that has crossed 1 million. So it's been more than 3 times in the last decade, and which is why the government is facing political pressure from the domestic constituents. Very quickly, I'm running out of time, and this is a question I asked to both Ajay Sharma and Jitin Chawla. Ajay Sharma, do you see other destinations now becoming popular, or do you think this is just election time rhetoric and this may change and things could continue to going back to normal?
No, this will not change for at least another 2 to 5 years, at least for these countries that we are talking about, Canada, Australia, UK. So it's not going to change for next 2 to 3 years, simply for the reason that they already have good number of students who are on pathway to various, objectives, PR, or they have to come back or work permit, whatever. There is no doubt whatsoever, because, for example, USA got their highest number of Indian students for a long time. So there is no doubt whatsoever that USA, European countries, countries like Singapore, Hong Kong.
Okay.
They are the new popular destination that Indian students will go for. And if
Okay.
at all Indian students have interest towards Australia, Canada, UK,
Right.
my personal recommendation is go for healthcare and
Go for healthcare. I'm sorry, I want to quickly give 30 seconds to Jitin Chawla, completely out of time. Yes, very quickly.
So, see, again, it is different. So, Canada, still for STEM people are going for science, technology, engineering. So, it's a good story, and there are provisions so they can stay back, both in
Okay.
programs and in express entry scheme also. Whereas, if I look at other areas, like somebody is a humanities student or even pure play
Right.
management, then get more difficult. If I look at Australia, Australian universities typically have more flexibility,
Okay.
and still, otherwise it is better. Though Australia also and Canada also is increasingly becoming more and more expensive.
Okay,
Also, people
I'll have
will
to interrupt you there, Mr. Chawla. I understand that it's now all about courses when you choose geographies, and it cannot be more generic, even though it may be not in sync with the interests of the students. On that note, appreciate both of you joining me on India Global.